Good morning. In this week, we will give chapter 11, respiration and gas exchange for British. Um, and the students will be using the PowerPoint presentation already uploaded to the resource documents on MIS portal, and also as well as their book, and this lesson starts on page 141. So let's first open the PowerPoint presentation, which will start talking about respiration. So it's chapter 11, part 1, respiration. First of all, students should know that every living cell needs energy, and our cells as humans also need energy for different reasons. Let's just list these reasons briefly. Sure, we need energy for contracting of our muscles, so we can move parts of the body, for making protein molecules by linking amino acids together, for cell division, so that we can repair any damaged tissue and can grow. For active transport also we need energy, as you know, since their molecules will be crossing against their concentration gradient. And this part about the active transport, we have also explained it previously when we talk about passive and active transport. Also, you should know that we need energy for transmitting nerve impulses, so that we can transfer information quickly from one part of the body to another. And this is the job of our nervous system. We need as well energy for producing heat inside the body, to keep the temperature constant, to keep the body temperature constant. Even if the environment is cold, you know that our body temperature is stable, should be constant on 37 degrees. So you need this energy to keep your body stable. All of this energy comes from the food that we eat. The food is digested, which means it's broken down into smaller molecules. Then they are absorbed from the intestine into the blood. Okay. Then the blood transports these nutrients to all the cells in the body. These cells take up the nutrients that they need. So in which way the main nutrients that provide us energy will be the glucose. After we have digested the food that we eat and transported by blood to the cells, then the main important component or the main nutrient that will provide energy in the cells will be the glucose. Here, like all, let's say, like in all the metabolic reaction, respiration involves also the action of enzymes. So this is just like a start. We start the lesson by recalling, or we let the students remember that we all need energy. Living organisms need energy for different purposes. The main and simplest form of energy we take it is the glucose. This is the first objective of this lesson, in which we'll introduce what is respiration. We will talk about two types of respiration also, aerobic and anaerobic respiration, with their details, with their formulas, and also will apply activities regarding these two types of respiration. Also, these activities are found in the book. We usually refer to the book to see the experiments and to answer the related questions. So, regarding now, let's just also remember, we have to let students remember what are the metabolic reactions that happen inside the body. So first of all, they should know that the sum of all chemical reactions in living cells is known as metabolism. Metabolic reactions involve in using or releasing energy. Using energy means photosynthesis, whereas releasing energy is cellular respiration. Photosynthesis is one of the main processes which occurs at the level of the plants, green plants, and we have previous chapter regarding photosynthesis in which it used light energy to build up molecules. And this light energy is used with the presence of CO2 and H2O, sure, in the chlorophyll, the chloroplast, to make glucose plus oxygen to produce oxygen, which means converting light energy to chemical energy at the presence of sunlight. And here the energy is used up by the plant, okay, to make its own food, which is the energy. However, in cellular respiration, note that it's different. Here we're releasing energy. All living organisms respire. All living organisms made up of cells. These cells have to undergo cellular respiration, in which they will be using glucose as simple sugar to be broken in the presence of oxygen in order to give CO2 and H2O and energy. And that's what we will discuss later in this chapter. Okay, so we're focusing on cellular respiration. This slide is also only to show difference between photosynthesis and cellular respiration, to understand and to remember the difference between these two. Now, to talk about respiration, I'll talk about first in general what does the cellular respiration means. Then we'll take the two types of respiration, which is aerobic and anaerobic. Cellular respiration, as we said, it's a metabolic process in all living organisms in which we release ATP. ATP is the energy storing molecule, adenosine triphosphate. We also used to talk about previously. We gave the chemical structure and the function of it. From organic compounds in food molecule combining with oxygen, in which we have glucose combining with oxygen to release energy. A process by which energy is harvested or collected from organic compounds or chemical energy in the food to make ATP molecules that are used to carry out cell activities. Most of you know about the definition of cellular respiration, and its equation is very important to write it in symbols and in words. And as usual, we write it as 6H12, referring to glucose, plus oxygen, 6O2, to give 6 CO2 plus 6 H2O plus energy. And here the energy, as you see, it will be released. So adding here number 6 is for balancing, since it's a chemical equation, so it should be balanced. So we balance it by adding 6 here, 6 for carbon, 6 for hydrogen, etc. And as you see, here will be the production of energy. This is in general when you talk about cellular respiration. At the same time, you can say that this equation refers to aerobic respiration. Why we call it aerobic respiration? Since it's using oxygen, or happens in the presence of oxygen. This process takes place in every cell in all organisms, and it mainly happens in the mitochondria of the cell, of a certain cell. Okay, so this briefly regarding what is cellular respiration. Now, let us check the two types, both types of cellular respiration. Now, we can divide cellular respiration into two parts, aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. You should be able to differentiate between both, and for simple differentiation, we can say that aerobic, it takes place in the presence of oxygen, so oxygen is needed. However, in anaerobic respiration, it takes place in absence of oxygen, that means oxygen is not needed. This is very important to understand. So aerobic respiration takes place in presence of oxygen, and anaerobic takes place in the absence of oxygen, no oxygen. And we will also now write the two equations of both of them. Here, that's just like comparing between both. So number 2 releases large amount of energy. In this type of respiration, it releases high amount of energy, in which one glucose molecule give up like 38 ATP. However, in anaerobic, it releases small amount of energy. That means one glucose molecule give only 2 ATP molecules. Products of aerobic respiration, its product is CO2 and H2O, and it releases energy. However, in anaerobic respiration, it's different. Lactic acid in muscles, and we'll talk about this in details later, in which lactic acid in muscles, it's formed when you make an excessive exercise or heavy exercise. At the beginning, your cell will be aerobically respiring. Then it will shift for anaerobic respiration, in which the muscle, now when you make this heavy exercise, the heart and the lungs are unable to supply oxygen to your muscles as quickly as they are using it. So the muscles will shift for anaerobic respiration and it start to produce lactic acid. And here we can write the formula. Here we can write the formula of the muscles in which it can respire anaerobically. So we can say glucose will give will just to write as a symbol. Okay, we say that this glucose will give lactic acid directly. Okay, we simply can draw this, maybe this thing here. Okay, fine. So glucose can give lactic acid directly. Okay, to break down lactic acid in the absence of oxygen. No oxygen here. Here already we talk about the process, which is glucose plus H2O to give CO2 plus H2O. Okay, glucose plus oxygen to give CO2 plus H2O. Then here they say about aerobic respiration that it takes place in cytoplasm and mitochondria in eukaryotes. In prokaryotes occur in cell membrane. This is for bacteria. However, for anaerobic respiration, in the muscles, as we said, in humans, glucose will be broken down lactic acid, whereas for bacteria and yeast, this is different. For bacteria and yeast, glucose will be broken down anaerobically without the presence of oxygen into alcohol and carbon dioxide. Okay, so for anaerobic respiration, glucose, here we can add this. We can add it. Okay, we can add here that in bacteria, glucose will be broken down, okay, into, just let me finish this, into alcohol plus CO2. Okay, CO2. So this is concerning glucose, how it's broken down in the absence of oxygen in the bacteria. Okay, this we call anaerobic respiration. So to make quick difference between aerobic and anaerobic, again we say that aerobic use oxygen, anaerobic does not use oxygen. Aerobic, as you can see, have release large amount of molecules of glucose. Anaerobic release less energy from each molecule of glucose. For aerobic respiration, no alcohol or lactic acid is made. As you can see, it's only CO2 and H2O is made in aerobic. Whereas anaerobic, the result will be in muscles, in humans, the glucose will be broken down into lactic acid, whereas for bacteria, anaerobic respiration, the result will be alcohol and CO2. Sure, no alcohol will be produced by muscles. Okay, this is very important to understand. So carbon dioxide, as a result, is made by the yeast, but it's not made by animals or by referred to humans in Arabic respiration. Okay, this is to also understand the difference between these two and to know the equation for each one. Now, if we'll, yeah, here we'll say briefly about similarities between aerobic and anaerobic. We'll say that both types of the respiration use glucose and both produce ATP energy molecules. Aerobic respiration have three stages. Glycolysis occurs in the cytoplasm. It's the breakdown of glucose molecule, whereas Krebs cycle and electron transport cycle, this is another stages of aerobic respiration. We usually give the students a video to understand these steps. However, in this chapter, we will only focus on the difference between aerobic and anaerobic at the beginning. And this one sure need oxygen to happen since it's aerobic respiration. Then also we talked about anaerobic respiration or fermentation, which is lactic acid fermentation, in which glucose break down into lactic acid by the process called glycolysis and take place in muscle cells. This is very important to understand since when you make a heavy exercise, your muscles will, or you are overusing the muscles. Here, the muscles will stop using oxygen since the heart cannot pump enough oxygen to muscles. So the muscles switch to anaerobic respiration in the absence of oxygen and produce lactic acid. This is important to understand. So briefly, we can explain it as muscle cells can respire anaerobically for a short time. They make lactic acid, and this happens when you make vigorous or heavy exercise, and your lungs and heart cannot supply oxygen to your muscles as quickly as they are using it. So that the muscle will be respiring anaerobically without the use of oxygen and start to produce lactic acid. Now, when lactic acid accumulates inside the muscle, and that all of us can can have experience in it, when we have this heavy exercise for a long time, exercising heavily, we start have a pain in our muscles. This indicates that there's accumulation of lactic acid in our muscles, and this produces painful cramps. Okay, in such a way, in such a case, the muscles is producing lactic acid. So usually, a person when he feel pain or cramps in his muscle, he usually stop. He has to stop, or usually automatically stop training or having exercise, and then he will take a certain time to get rid of this lactic acid. This also will mention when talk about exercise and breathing rate, how our breath rate changes while we are exercising, how our muscle will stop breathing aerobically and start anaerobic respiration, and how when we stop exercising, let's say running for 1 hour or more than that, after we stop, we're still breathing hardly. Why we keep breathing hardly? It's just also because that here we are breathing deeply and faster to take oxygen. The take oxygen, since here oxygen has to combine with lactic acid to break lactic acid, and this happen in the aerobic respiration, which happening in the liver. This one also we'll talk later about it when we met in part 2 of this lesson, and we will have a certain exercise regarding this point to make it clear. Okay, this is referring to lactic acid fermentation. Now, alcoholic fermentation, glucose break down into ethanol and CO2 by glycolysis, and this occurs in the bacteria or the yeast, actually, in the yeast. So it can respire anaerobically. Yeast is a single-celled fungus, as you know, and can respire anaerobically to break down glucose to alcohol, and occur mainly in microorganisms like fungi, bacteria, and yeast. It's useful in food industry to make bread, since we are using, when preparing bread, we're using yeast. And some products like alcohol drinks and beverages also use the yeast or bacteria, like also for beer, for wine, etc., for alcoholic drinks too. Also, they use this type of alcoholic fermentation to produce these types of foods. Okay, now we'll mention also about similarities between acidic fermentation and alcohol fermentation. Both are anaerobic, take place without oxygen. Both produce two ATP molecules. Both can be used in food industry. Both take place in cytoplasts. Briefly about the main similarities between acidic fermentation and alcohol fermentation, and both involve stages to break down glucose, which is glycolysis, and the formation of, as we talk about the CO2. Okay, in these slides we understood what is respiration. Sure, we mentioned all the purpose of the using of energy in the humans. Then we talk about aerobic respiration. We have to understand its equation, to understand the part of aerobic respiration. Then we talk about anaerobic respiration. Also, we have to understand what does it mean, to write the equation. Then we have to make similarities between aerobic and anaerobic respiration, as we said the table. I want also to add something which is here. This is very important. Also, this thing you can refer to it in your book. In your book, and there's this very important part in your book you have to mention, to refer to it, which is page 141. There's a table 1.11.1. Okay, in which there's a difference between aerobic and anaerobic. Actually, also in this, while we were talking about this chapter, we also solved activities with the students during the first week. During week 1, we solved activity 11.2 and 11.3. 11.2 was showing experiments, and the objective of that activity was to show the uptake of oxygen during aerobic respiration. This activity was done with a small animal put in a certain container. Okay, let's just we'll check if we have it, since we used the book to solve with the students regarding this activity. Okay, yes, here. Okay, yeah, here this activity 11.2, in which the objective was to show the uptake of oxygen during aerobic respiration. Here we use certain apparatus, and we have a figure inside the book to help students, two figures actually, A and B, to help students understand the experiment. The first picture is without animal, it's just a control tube, and the second one having the animal, in which we leave the animal to breathe, to respire, and then we measure the, let's say, oxygen, okay, in this experiment. Here we give the students such text regarding, or they can use the book regarding the given and the notes and the safety things and apparatus which is used. They have to read the given well. Then they have to answer the questions regarding this experiment, in which they have to show that we're using, for example, soda lime, it absorbs CO2, and there is an oil drop that will be moved in the direction towards the apparatus. Since the wood lice or the small animal is respiring, so it will take oxygen into its body and give out CO2. Now CO2 will be absorbed by the soda lime. That's why the oil drop will be moving toward the apparatus. We solved this experiment with the students by showing them, by using the book, having two pictures with the given and the questions, and we solved with them online. Same, they can refer to the resource documents or their own documents to see the answer key of this experiments, as well as we give here the answers. All the students have the answers. Okay, they can refer to their copybook on which we solved that with them online regarding activity 11.2 and 11.3. As well as we have on page 151, also in the book, we're using actually the book also, we solved in the book exercises 1, 2, referring to the this part of the lesson, as well as we solved one referring to this part, and also we used past paper. We also have one of the past papers that we prepare for students to solve. Also, as just a reference for respiration, we have here a worksheet. Different worksheets actually we have used in this, like this one. Okay, we have the questions for students, as well as we have certain questions we solve with them. Also, they have the answer key. Okay, and also there's a certain past paper, also like MCQ questions made. We keep it, usually we have it as an online resource for students to also practice. We have a lot of things. All we have uploaded for the different past papers, we usually uploaded for them. Here I have many actually. However, already students, they have it on the resource documents. They can check their own on the MIS portal regarding this past paper. Here now, this is one of the, let's say, simple questions, direct questions we used to give them. Okay, please refer to the past paper that we have uploaded for you on the resource documents of this part of the lesson. Also, we used to give another activity, page 143, activity 11.3, in which also we have the certain objective investigating the production of carbon dioxide by anaerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration, here we use yeast, and we cover it. We cover it with a certain liquid, paraffin liquid, so that to prevent it to respire aerobically. So it's obliged to respire anaerobically. Then we discover that the CO2 in the other test tube are also alcohol in the same liquid where the yeast is. Same as 11.2, we used to give the given for the students. You can refer to page 143 in your book, and also the answer key is found also available for the students. Okay, we solved A1 to A6 with them just to ensure that they understood how a yeast can respire anaerobically. So this part with the activities, with the past papers that we have solved with students, all referring to chapter 11, part 1. Okay, this was done in week 1 for 9 BR students. Thank you.